In the previously posted video, Calculator Style Layout and Interface Builder, which was done in 2017, there is an issue that arises when implementing that interface in Xcode here in 2020. It turns out that when you do the equal height of the rows or you do the equal width of the buttons, that there's a multiplier that is getting set that wasn't being set when the video was being produced. So I'm going to recreate part of the user interface using the current Xcode to show you how to get around this issue with this multiplier that is getting set. So I'm launching Xcode, creating a new Xcode project, single view application, and I'm going to call this Calculator Layout. So I'm going to select the main storyboard, and in the view controller there is an existing view. In it we are going to stick another view that we are going to constrain. So I'm going to find that view, drag it in. This view is going to be constrained on the top to the safe area and to the bottom to the safe area. By going to the safe area, if there's a navigation bar at the top, or on the bottom here, if we have a toolbar or any other kind of bar at the bottom, we'll make room for that. And then on the leading side, we're going to say leading space to safe area. If you were to hold the Option key down, the choice would be margin, but we don't want to go to the margin. We want to go all the way to the edge of the display. Current safe area goes all the way to the edge. So leading space to safe area, trailing space to safe area. And then these blue lines show us that the constraints have values that are not 0. So we're going to change these to 0 so that the view goes all the way to the extents that we set. So we now have our view inside the view. All of the items in the calculator style layout are going to be placed in stack views. We're going to have a series of vertically placed items. So we're going to need a vertical stack. Those are going to be the rows of the calculator. And then in each row, we're going to have horizontally stacked buttons. And so we're going to use a horizontal stack for that. So our first stack is a V stack because we're going to stack our rows. So I hit the plus sign, search for stack, vertical stack, drag it in. And this is going to be constrained on all 4 sides to the view that it is placed inside of. So if I control click diagonally and then hold the shift key down, I can say leading space, top space, trailing space, bottom space to the container. And then these blue lines indicate that the constraints have values that aren't 0 because they have some length. So I'm going to change these to 0. So now we have a vertical stack that is constrained to fit inside the view, which has been constrained to fit inside the view of the view controller. So that is a vertical stack, and what we want to have are rows of buttons, and so those rows are going to be horizontal stacks, and so we're going to have a vertical stack of horizontal stacks, and there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 rows. The 2 top are for the calculator displays, and then the other ones are for the buttons themselves. So I'm going to go find stack again, and we're going to put the horizontal stack view inside the vertical stack view. If you just drag it in, you'll see it drops inside that indentation. And now I need to do that 7 more times, and it needs to be that they're all lined up appropriately. If you drag it in and it's not lined up like that, it needs to be inside the stack view like that. So we're going to finish this. So that's 4, 5, 6, and 7. So each of these stack views is going to have a horizontal set of items in it. I'm going to start at the bottom one here and get my buttons, and there are going to be 3 buttons across in most cases. So for now I'm going to drag 3 buttons in, so I can do it here in the interface, or I can do it up here in the navigator for the interface. So that's button 1, 2, and 3. So we have 3 buttons there, and now I've got to repeat this in each stack view, except for the top 2, which are going to have user interface elements in them for displaying text. They're going to be text fields. So I took care of that one. Let's go to this one. Got to be moved in a bit. Here we go. 2 and 3, and then 1, 2, and 3. One more. 1, 2, and 3. And then in the top 2, we're going to have text fields. So text field in that one, and text field in that one. So if we had been following the original video, this interface would be looking a whole lot better right now than it does. And it looks like, I'll admit, quite a mess, but it's quite a mess because something hasn't happened yet. And then when we do that thing that hasn't happened yet, it's not going to be quite right. We're going to have to fix it. And in the process, I'm going to show you how to think about this problem and how you would resolve it if you were on your own. So I have my stack views. I have a vertical stack view that has a set of 7 horizontal stack views, and in 5 of the horizontal stack views there are 3 buttons, and in 2 of them there are text fields. Now, what is going to make each of the rows the same height is by saying that the stack views, all of the horizontal ones that are in the vertical stack view, that each of the stack views is of equal height. So the way that I do that is I select the top one, and then I control-click drag to the next one below it, and I say equal heights. And then from the first to the third, equal heights. From the first to the fourth, equal heights. From the first to the fifth, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, see, now I lost track, and here's how I check. If I click on that stack view and then choose the ruler, it says proportional height. If I click on that, it says proportional height. Click on that, proportional height. This one, notice I go back to that one, has a proportional height. This one does not. So I'm going to have to go from this one to this one. Equal heights. So now if I, again, this one has height on it, that one has height on it, that one has height on it, that one has height on it. So now we're going to go to this one. So from here to here, equal heights. Let's check it. We got it. And then to this one, equal heights. And it's after doing that that you probably think you have a problem, at least if you're comparing it to the video, because we took each of these horizontal stack views that are in this vertical stack view and said they should all have equal heights, and we can even see all these equal signs, but clearly they don't have equal heights. They're not distributing in the same way. So I'm going to click on the edit button here for one of these constraints. And notice this first stack view, the top one, has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 constraint set, because it's one, that first one, to each of the other 6 to get the equal heights. If I click on this edit button, you'll see that it has here a multiplier. And they're saying be equal heights, but with a multiplication factor of 21 on one of those objects. So actually, they're not equal heights. And the way to truly get this to be what we want, the multiplier needs to be 1. So I set that multiplier to 1, and then I can go and hit the edit and do a 1, and then do edit and change the multiplier to 1, and then edit, change the multiplier to 1, edit, change the multiplier to 1, edit, change the multiplier to 1. And you will now see not the buttons, but the rows are of equal height, because these horizontal stack views have all been told to have equal height and that multiplier of 1. You could also take the stack view here and individually select each stack view and then go to the ruler, and this would be the stack view constraint for that stack view from the first one. And you'll notice if I edit here, because we changed these all to 1, that this is in fact 1. Okay, here again, it's set to 1. So I'll do this bottom one, set to 1. So this resolves the first problem, that the rows you may be getting weren't appearing to be of equal height. And evidently in that earlier Xcode, when we did the equal height thing, for whatever reason, the multiplier was coming out to be set to 1, and they were nicely becoming equal height rows as they were being laid out. And this one didn't, but as you can see after the fact here of laying them out, that we can do this. So now each of the buttons in a row needs to be equal width, at least in the case where we have 3 equal sized buttons. So I'm going to take this bottom row, since I already have it selected here, and I'm going to select that first button, control click drag to the second button, and say equal heights. From the first to the third, then say equal heights. So let's do this now for all of them. So equal heights, equal heights. What am I saying equal heights for? That's just dumb. Undo add layout constraint, undo add layout constraint. Why? I want them equal widths. Duh. So I did this on purpose. What if I actually did that? I accidentally added these constraints that I didn't want. So if you select, let's say, that bottom in that bottom stack, you'll see here with the ruler selected, there are 2 constraints set. Now, this is the confusing part. They're both equal height to a button, right? Because this first one is to the other 2. And if I were to choose the stack view, you see this has equal height to the other stack view. These buttons have equal heights to each other. I don't want equal height, so I'm going to select that constraint and hit delete. Select that constraint and hit delete. And I don't have any set on this. So back again to what we're doing. These buttons are to share the horizontal space. That is, each button is to be of equal width. So from the first button to the second one in that row, equal width. From the first one to the third one, equal width. Now, we see the equal signs here. They don't exactly look like equal width, but if we were to follow what we were seeing on the stack views, there's probably a multiplier set. So I'm going to select that first button, go to the ruler, and here are my 2 constraints to the 2 following buttons right here. And if I hit edit, see that one has a multiplier of 7, change it to 1. Hit edit, multiplier of 7 needs to be changed to a 1. Now our buttons are equally spaced in that row. And if we were to select the buttons, that first one has the 2 constraints to the 2 following buttons. If I were to select the middle button, it just has that constraint to the first button. In fact, when I select it, you'll see the equal here to show us that. If I go to this third one, equal to show us that it is that constraint. So now I go to the stack view above it, go to the next button and say equal widths. If I select this and hit edit, change this to 1. Multiplier there is already 1, so that's good. Go to the one above it. Control, click, drag to the next one. Equal widths. Select that first button, get that first constraint, the multiplier set to 1. The multiplier there is already set to 1. They're nicely laid out. Go up one more row. Equal widths. I went from the first button to the second and set a constraint, first button to the third, set a constraint. I'm on that first button. I edit that first constraint, so the multiplier is 1. This multiplier is already 1. And then this final row of buttons from the first to the second, equal widths, first to the third, equal widths. Select the first one, hit edit, multiplier of 1, hit the second one, multiplier of 1, and now we have our rows and our buttons all laid out with equal spacing. If I wanted to get rid of, say, this one button here and have 2 buttons, they're still going to be equal widths and fit in that row. If I wanted this button to be longer than that button, then I could play with the multiplier. So this button is twice as wide as that one button, which means that I could have, a big button for one activity and then smaller buttons for other kinds of input functions. The button labels themselves can be changed here just by entering values. And then, of course, as with the video, we'll probably want to change the font size so that it is a bigger value displayed in the button, and maybe the color of the button and the color of the font is something you want to change so it looks better. And you still have to deal with any formatting or layout that's needed, or any constraints that are, or parameters or properties that are needed for these text fields that are up here. But hopefully this video will get you past any issues you run into in getting the kind of nice distributed layout that we saw in the first video here in the latest Xcode, which as of this video is 11.4.